So the other question she had for you was, if you could pick anything you've done that's, I guess, your most prized creation, what would it be if you could pick one? The one that you want to be buried with, right?
How about getting buried after we getting buried?
Cremated.
I don't want to be buried. I might pick one. It'd be cremated and just have my. I'll tell you a little story along with that cremation bit. I told my sons. I said, now when I die. Of course, I'm going to be cremated, but I tell you what, let me back up a little. They kidded me over the years about saving every little old piece of wire and every bolt and everything like that. It came out of an old car or this and that and the other, and I saved it, and it's down there in my basement workshop. I've got them in jars and jugs and stuff, and there's different parts, and there's little pieces of this and something. And oh yeah, that belonged to a 40 Ford I had, you know, that sort of thing. Anyway, I said, okay, you all kidded me about saving all this stuff. I'm going to give you a job. You have to promise to do this for me. I said, when they cremate me, in this arm here is, I think there's 23 bolts and 2 long pieces of steel. And I said, I want you all to make sure, of course that won't burn when they cremate you. That'll be all there is, some ashes, those 23 bolts and 2 pieces of steel. And said, I know that somebody sometime will want to use them to put take 2 pieces of steel, put one on either side of the handle on a wheelbarrow, and put the bolts in there in case it's got a broken handle on it.
You want to be reincarnated as a wheelbarrow.
Oh, in a wheelbarrow. And of course that's to inspire them to do a little work with that wheelbarrow. Oh, they said they would. They got a big kick out of that. But I like these answering these questions. I mean, my answers are not very good. They're rambling.
But you're still beating around the bush.
Beating around the bush.
You still hasn't told us what the most prized creation is.
No, I don't really. I don't know. As you can see, I did something. I did this, and talking about doing things and running into problems like a rock inside of a tree. This lady said to me, oh, I'd like for you to do a portrait of my granddaughter, I believe it was. And it was in pastels. And I said I would. So she brought me a picture of her granddaughter. And her granddaughter, of all the things they gave her to hold, was a peanut. Now it was a peanut with a, it was kind of like two ends to it, and it's kind of little in the middle, kind of. It's got a hull on it. Anyway, that little girl had that peanut as holding it or something, or looking at it or something with that peanut. But anyway, that to me, when I worked on that, it looked like somebody had amputated that little girl's finger. It's the same problem that in like 1914 or 15, maybe a little later, but in those years, there was a man painted, I should know who he is. I don't, Ralph Hand. He painted Uncle Sam Wants You, and he had that Uncle Sam's finger coming straight at you. Now you've got to remember there's no depth here. There's just perspective and stuff. If you stare at that long enough, it's hard to not believe that finger's cut off. That little girl's, I worked and worked and finished it all, and it got down to that finger, and it looked like it, and I would change it, and it'd come right back every time. Every solution I had was that thing looked like a finger. It was the way that peanut was in there. I said, I'll fool with it. I said, I looked back at the photograph, and it looked like it'd been cut off too, so all I could do was just leave it there. I got to thinking, sometimes if you stare at something long enough, you can talk yourself into believing that their nose is too long, or an earlobe is too fat, or something. You can drive yourself batty. I suggest you just stop working on that thing for a while, leave it alone for several days, and then come back and see if it still looks like. Now, you got to get rid of that that notion that it's going to look like her finger's cut off. You try to get rid of that, and I'm going to walk in and look at it again. And it did. It worked. When I returned it to that lady, she was just tickled pink with her granddaughter, and it somehow didn't look that way to her, and it didn't look that way to me over a period of a week or so. I kept it around to make sure that didn't, because I was kind of ashamed to give that thing back to her with her granddaughter's finger amputated. But it's just one of those tricks. Hard work and a little smarts will get you out of that. Who was his answering these, asking all these tough questions?
Alicia Milan. Alicia Milan.
Alicia Milan.
So you still haven't told us, there's nothing here that, there's more prize than...
No, not really.
Not more prize than anything else?
Has really nothing. There's the biscuit eater. They'd be in the running probably, but I don't know. You turn around.
I have a few favorites. You're not proud of any of them?
Oh yeah, you're proud of all of them.
Or is it that
It's like asking you to...
are you hung up on the flaws that you know are in these works? And
No.
No?
I've probably already canned them.
But I mean...
Trash can somewhere's full of my
But
flaws.
you told me once that, when you know something has flaws, you don't tell somebody.
No.
You don't point them out.
You don't point them.
And I'm not saying that, these have
Yeah.
flaws that I can see. But I'm saying...
Oh,
But they may have flaws that you're aware of. And maybe that would be a reason you'd be like, well, a little more humble about...
no, they didn't gain or lose in over the years. They didn't gain or lose any. If I thought they were pretty good, I don't know. Maybe I'm just it's
old hat.
same.
You want something new. Are you more excited about what you're doing now than what you've already done?
Yeah, and I've got some new things to work with downstairs. I might try some. I've got different tools and better tools than I had back when I was really, really needy.
Yeah.
But that'll help in the long run, having some decent tools to work with. And I've got inspired. I don't know. I was trying to do something else all this time, and for instance, if I do that, I didn't want to do that over and over and over. But some of them do look kind of like I've done them like that. But I went right there and did that one. Then I went over there and did that one. Then the one behind you there with it's Salvador Dali of influence. What I was trying to do is prepare myself for students. And these paintings or carvings or whatever they are were aimed at that, helping students. I shouldn't say this about teachers, but I've seen teachers that knew a lot and they wanted to guard what they knew or something. They didn't want to tell me what it was that they knew, and I didn't know it. Well, I wanted to be exact opposite. If I could get somebody to listen, I'd tell them. I'd tell them what I knew, just ask. I'll tell you everything, every little old bit. You all hear me rambling on. Some of these things were things that nobody told me, that I had to come across the hard way. I had to shed blood at times, learning some of these things. And boy, don't do it that way. Well, that's called learning it the hard way, and that happens to you. But I didn't believe in hoarding it. I believed in giving it. I was wanting it, and I felt incompetent in a lot of ways until I went and studied. How can I ask some student to do homework and this and that and the other and give 100% and all this stuff? And then what do is go home and sit around and watch TV and never touch or never do any. There's no law that said I as a teacher had to come home and practice in hours and hours and hours, weeks and months and whatever. It's the reason I never know how long it takes me to do something. I'll start, I'll work hard, and when the end comes, then I'll sign it and date it, and there it is. It took me that long to do it. But thrown in there is teaching school all day and taking a nap and going at it 3 or 4 hours a night. And it can end up in years. Some of the things you see here, I didn't do overnight, but I did do that in about maybe 2 hours.
I mean, I think honestly it's a fair answer because, you know, it's disappointing in the sense that we don't get to know about your unconditional love for one of your pieces, but you know, when I look at like the Dali book, you know,
Yeah.
with all his works, it's like, you know, to ask Salvador, you know, what was the best one, and be like,
Yeah, I want to know that
you know,
too.
kind of. But with all the things he's done, it's very difficult.
Oh yeah.
And it also makes me think of you know, that saying, you know, it's about climbing the mountain, not reaching the top.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
It's the journey. It's not the end.
it's and each
it's
project is a journey.
Yes, it is. And above all, you're learning something. Somebody coined the phrase, if you're through learning, you're through. And that's true. I think it's Michelangelo that actually had his apprentices tie the chisels in his hand and tie the mallet here when he had to chisel off things, stone. He got rheumatism so bad he couldn't, his fingers and all that were curled up, but he had them tie them on there and then take them off at night. He'd chisel all day like that. He didn't give up. Gosh, and he was changing things. Some of his things, he changed his mind on the stance right after he got 2/3 of the way through that or something or other. He changed the arms, and arms are gone. He was trying to get a figure in there. He didn't like what he had. There's an arm hanging on to somebody else. One, I believe it's maybe taking Christ down from a cross or something or other. But he wasn't happy with that. But the person working like that right up till they die, it inspires me. But lots of great people, it's about 32, 34, somewhere in that range. I think Alexander the Great conquered all the known world at that time, sometimes when he was like 27 years old. I may miss these things a few years there, here and there, but that's generally,
Yeah.
he was just a young man. And that included all the known world. China, they didn't even know about it. He got out of there and then cried because there wasn't anything else to, said he sat down and wept, I believe. He didn't have any place else to conquer. But man, that's something else, isn't it? But
Hard to top that.
Yeah, gosh. But I'll have to give that some thought. Maybe I'll get back. Maybe I'll have a better answer. I hate not to answer things. That's wishy-washy, and you're just kind of chicken if you don't just.
Well, we got some good stories out of it.
Yeah, but I hate to.
It made for a good discussion.
Say, yeah, we asked him a little simple question, and he couldn't.
Well, I'll try to pin him down next time.